For 5 episodes, I've been you. We climbed every level together, 10 grand, 100 grand, a million, 10 million, and every one of those numbers was yours to reach. So this time, I'm not going to be you. This time I'm going to show you the level above you, the one you'll probably never touch, because you need to see how it works. At $100 million, money stops doing what it does for you and me. It stops being something you spend, or save, or even pass on. It becomes something else entirely. The pen that writes the rules. The rules you follow every day, how you're taxed, what you can borrow, what's legal, what's normal. A lot of them were written, or quietly bent, by people standing at this level. This isn't an episode about getting rich. It's about seeing the game clearly. So let me show you the 4 things that change when money becomes power. Change 1. The rules bend. Because at 100 million, the rule book you and I follow stops being a wall and starts being a suggestion. You earn money, you pay tax on it, that's the rule. You want to spend, you sell something and pay tax again, that's the rule. You break a law, there's a consequence. Simple. That's the game down where we live, and it's basically fair. Now watch it bend. At 100 million, you don't earn income the way I do, so there's less to tax. You don't sell to spend, you borrow against what you own at almost nothing, so you never trigger the tax at all. Buy, borrow, die. Own everything, sell nothing, pay almost nothing, and pass it on untouched. None of that is illegal. That's the point. The rule didn't break. It just bends around money that's heavy enough. That's the first thing power buys, not breaking the rules, bending them in the open, perfectly legally, around money too heavy for the rules to stay straight. Change 2. The moat. Because once you have money this big, your money's main job changes. It stops trying to grow and starts trying to protect itself. Down at every level before this, you wanted your money to make more money. Up here, you already have more than enough. So the goal flips. Now the money's job is to defend the money, and it hires an army to do it. Lawyers, tax advisors, trusts, holding companies, offshore structures with names you'll never hear. Each one is a ring of a moat, built for a single purpose, to keep the pile safe from taxes, from lawsuits, from you ever even seeing it. I went from being charged a $35 fee for being broke, to being the bank, to this. A fortress with a moat, where the whole machine exists to make sure the money never leaves and never shrinks. The richer the money, the higher the walls around it. So that's change 2. $100 million doesn't sit in a bank. It sits in a fortress, behind a moat that money built to guard itself. Change 3. The influence. This is where the lever from the last episode stops moving businesses and starts moving minds. At 10 million, your money could fund a company. At 100 million, it can fund a narrative. It can buy a media outlet, back a campaign, sponsor the research that becomes the headline you read, hire the lobbyists who quietly write the footnote in the law that saves people like them millions. The money stops being a thing you own and becomes a voice in the room where your rules get decided, and you're not in that room. And here's the uncomfortable part. The lever isn't pointed at building things anymore. It's pointed at the rule book itself. The same rules from Change 1, how money like this gets taxed, what it's allowed to do. Those rules get shaped by the very people the rules are about. That's not a conspiracy. It's just what $100 million can afford to influence, out in the open. So that's change 3. $100 million doesn't just play the game. It gets a quiet hand in writing the rules of it. Change 4, the invisible. And this is the one that'll surprise you most, because it's the opposite of everything you picture. You think this level looks like yachts and gold watches. That's $10 million money still trying to look rich. Real power does the opposite. It disappears. $100 million wears a plain jacket and drives a normal car, because being visibly rich makes you a target for lawsuits, for tax authorities, for envy, for risk. The richest person in the room is very often the one you'd never look at twice. Down at the bottom, being invisible to the bank cost me fees, denials, no access. Up here, invisibility is the whole strategy. The money hides inside trusts and holding companies and quiet ownership, not because it's doing anything wrong, but because the less the world can see, the less the world can touch. At this level, looking like nothing is the ultimate luxury. So that's change 4. The most powerful money in the world isn't the money you can see. It's the money that learned to disappear. So step back and look at the whole climb. 10 grand gave you a floor, 100 grand, the crossover, 1 million, the avalanche, 10 million, the overflow, and 100 million, that's the level where money stops being something you have and becomes something that shapes the board everyone else is playing on. And here's the only reason I showed you a level you'll probably never reach. Because the rules you live by every day, how you're taxed, what you can borrow, what counts as normal, were not handed down by nature. They were written, partly by people standing right here. The game isn't rigged against you exactly. It's just written by people who already won it. And you can't change a rule you can't even see. And if you think 100 million is the top, it isn't. There's one more level, where money stops being personal, stops even being power, and starts behaving like a country. $1 billion. Same machine, one more scale up, where the rules don't just bend, they get built from scratch. But that's a different show entirely. $100 million won't make you rich, because rich stopped being the point 4 episodes ago. What it really is power. The power to bend the rules, build the moat, fund the voice, and disappear while doing all 3. You may never hold that pen, but now you can at least read what it's written. And seeing the game clearly is the first piece of power anybody ever actually gives you for free. So here's the last question, and it's the one that's worth more than any of these numbers. Now that you can see the rules and who writes them, how are you going to play? And if you think 100 million is the top, it isn't. $1 billion, where money stops being power and starts behaving like a country. But that's a different show entirely.